again to Civic. Welcome again to Civic Tech Hacknight number 519. Today we are excited to have Rafael Grohmann with us. He is an assistant professor of media studies at the University of Toronto and a research associate at the University of Oxford. He is a founding editor of Platforms and Society Journal and a leader of the DigiLabour initiative. His research focuses on digital labor, AI and work, workers organizing, platform cooperativism, that's a mouthful, and the digital solidarity economy with a particular focus on Latin America. And so Rafael will share some insights about the Worker-Owned Intersectional Platforms project conducted with 6 tech and delivery collectives and cooperatives in Brazil and Argentina, and explore how these lessons can inspire Toronto communities towards worker-led digital futures. I already like this talk because it mentions Brazil, and I love Brazilian music, but in any event, please give a warm welcome to Rafael.
Great. Hello, good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. Today I decided to present you one of a lot of projects I am conducting these years. It's called Worker-Owned Intersectional Platforms, Shared Learnings between Brazil and Argentina. I did my first tattoo in Argentina during this research. It was an action research with 6 collectives and cooperatives from Brazil and Argentina, funded by SHIRC here in Canada. So for me, it's also good to share these learnings in Canada. Was 2 collectives and cooperatives from the delivery sector, and they were trying to create their own technologies, and 4 collectives and cooperatives from the tech sector, each one with its specificities. And this shared learning approach, like we wanted to understand how to learn with each other, with each collective, and with between 2 countries with a lot of in common, but with a lot of specificity as well. And we want to put intersectionality as one core thing, meaning gender, race, class, and another of inequalities and identities there, or how to create technologies putting intersectionality at the core. One spoiler is this is not resolved yet. We had to publish the report, and we have a lot of questions from this 2 years of research. So this was a research conducted collectively among a lot of these collectives. And this is the report we published 2 months ago in English, Portuguese, and Spanish. I prefer to present this report instead of slides because there is a lot of photos from the field. Because during these 2 years, we did 1 week of workshop in Sao Paulo, 1 week of workshop in Buenos Aires, and a lot of online meetings. And 2 months ago, we organized an event here at UFT called Workers Governing Technologies. I have a lot of stickers for you. And some of these people came to Toronto to share with other people from Canada, US, Spain, some of these findings from this research and from their own experiences. So this was the guiding question on how to imagine alternative digital futures considering intersectionality and worker-owned platforms. We even danced. This was a scene of a queer tango in Argentina in order to put our bodies connected to our territories and considering technologies connected to the bodies and territories we want to build collectively. So these were the collectives we worked during these past few years. The first one is Alternativa Laboral Trans, or Labor Alternative for Trans People. Is a tech co-op only formed by trans people from Argentina. Central Cooperative is a cooperative in south and the north of Argentina of delivery workers. The Argentina Federation of Tech Co-op is a federation with more than 40 co-ops in Argentina, and in this research, they were represented specifically by 2 co-ops, Código Libre and Animus. From Brazil, there was Maria Lab, is a collective of autonomous feminists creating infrastructure from feminist autonomous perspective, especially related to gender safety. And the tech sector of the homeless worker movement. The homeless worker movement is one of the biggest social movement is struggling for housing, fighting for housing in Latin America. And they created a tech sector. So they are organizing tech workers in a country without a strong institutionalization of tech unions. And they are creating technologies for homeless or unhoused people in Brazil. And finally, Senoritas Courrier is a collective of queer and trans people in the delivery sector in São Paulo. Most of them are also racialized people. As a starting point, for me, it's becoming clear, I'm here in Toronto since 2023, that Latin America has a long, rich history of experimentation in tech and experimentation in solidarity economy. From the cyber scene in Chile in 70s, when Salvador Allende and their engineers tried to combine socialism with cybernetics, and a lot of different other projects in Uruguay, in Peru, from the 70s. Latin America has this, from the free software movements there, we have this culture of tech experimentation, even now in the age of AI. And this is also real for the labor part, because the even term of solidarity economy as one form of cooperativism with like an umbrella term that covers not only the legal co-op, but the spirit of cooperativism, or trying to create new economies. This was inspired also by the movements of outer globalization in the 90s in cities like Porto Alegre, after Seattle in the end of 90s. So talking about the work and labor and technology in Latin America is talking about this experimentation. And 10 years ago, a guy called Trevor Shows coined a term called platform cooperativism, and as a form to combat platform capitalism. But what we started to realize that this concept didn't fit the proper reality in Latin America, because a lot of these collectives, they are not legally cooperative. They are social movements, they are NGOs, they are other forms of collectives. And they not always are creating platforms as the only technological form. They're creating different forms of technologies. So for us, it's better to talk about digital solidarity economies, because these expand the concept while honoring the long tradition of solidarity economy in the region. It's also about valuing from indigenous technologies to AI, in depending the context, and this needs to be rooted in the community needs. And we consider intersectionality as both the starting point and the ending point, not only as a theoretical concept, but considering the challenges of building technologies or embedding intersectionality in technologies. So from our positionalities, we recognize the multiple forms of oppression that shapes our bodies and territories. At the same time, from these perspectives, we also imagine and build other possible digital worlds in technology and labor, grounded in gender, race, class, sexuality, and beyond. A Princeton professor called Ruha Benjamin said that it's hard to imagine, but we need to try to imagine new different worlds. And so for us, even during this research, was hard. We also always started with the maximum program. We want to we want the end of capitalism, the end of the but how to create new things in practice in medium term was really hard during this research. So we emphasize the needs for new social technical imaginaries and how there's no ready formula for developing or continue to develop what we imagine as worker-owned platforms. We also got the conclusion that it's so hard to overcome the Silicon Valley ideology, even when we are against it, when we are trying to create in practice a technology, sometimes there is some kinds of challenges in overcoming, oh, we didn't need an app for it. Probably a spreadsheet will be better. So this kind of techno solutionism, even when we are trying to combat it. So we had some main learnings. First one is confronting the capital life conflict, and that for us as a collective, me and all the 6 collectives, are trying to balance our, we want a new, different world, but we need to pay our bills. How do we try to balance our contradictions during this process, and how to address these contradictions during the process? So for us, addressing critical pedagogies among collectives was a fruitful experience. The second one was inspired by a collective called Disco.coop. It's, for me, so powerful, called Care Before Code. And not only care before code, but care as a form of code. And care before code is also stop creating harmful technologies. So care as a way to refuse some kind of code. So for us was a really one core value of our research. Is related to violence and how we talked a lot about, especially, it was interesting because during the research, we discovered that most of us were queer people. And we started to talk about it and how this affected also our bodies and territories during this research. We're talking about moving beyond binaries and also queering technologies, queering labor, and how this is so hard. One example, one of the collectives or the cooperatives, Alternativa Laboral Trans, they started and they formed a tech co-op only formed by trans people because they need to do that. Not because, oh, we have a dream of doing, but because of the needs of survival in the world market dominated by cis men in a lot of, or most of the countries we live. So in the beginning, they didn't know what a trans technology means or how to understand technologies from a trans or queer perspective, or how to understand the world of work or the work environment from a trans and queer perspective. This became with the practice. And with this research, we reflected a lot about it, that we sometimes a newspaper put, oh, this collective is the future of the digital economy, but we are not ready for it. We are prototypes or laboratories. I like to say laboratories to emphasize the labor capital struggles on it. We emphasize the needs for articulation and communication among the collectives and not only within, and the need for more visibility, because a lot of our universities, we don't have knowledge or visibility for initiatives beyond the mainstream. Yeah, we travel a lot during this research as well. Some lessons learned between Brazil and Argentina. We learned that Argentina has a stronger institutionalized cooperativism, especially in the tech sector, illustrated by more than 40 co-ops forming a federation. And in Brazil, more grassroots movements trying to create in a more activist way from below a lot of these technologies. But we also found this need for a better articulation among these different collectives. Here you can read, I can share with you later, a lot of these learnings during the research. And each collective theorize about one different term or concept they are putting as a core of their initiatives. So the tech sector of the homeless worker movement talked about popular digital sovereignty, or digital sovereignty not only from the state, but connected with popular power, or people creating infrastructures from below and not depending on the state or beyond the state or despite the state. And really connected with the second one is autonomy from Maria Lab, social technology from Senoritas Corrier, intercooperation for us. The cooperativism response to this digital economy is really intercooperation and not each city creating their new app, but creating this shared knowledge and digital inclusion, and also trans technologies as a learning from Alternativa Laboral Trans. Here are some pictures so you can see some of the people who were involved in this project, even some of our dance. And what comes next? Some of the questions we didn't resolve during this research. First, we need to deepen the discussions, the differences between autonomy and sovereignty, or how we can reappropriate or not these notions in the time that Google, Microsoft, and Amazon are reclaiming themselves as selling sovereignty as a service. We need to continue to reflect on the role of state, especially in the case of Latin America, address internal inequalities in the development of technologies, is training reflection in practice around data governance within organizations. For us, was a hard time discussing it because sometimes it's not the priority of these collectives. Deepen collective debates on the shared appropriation of free and open technologies in the age of Gen AI especially. Confront the challenges of economic sustainability in order to not romanticize cooperatives but considering all the challenges they face. Expand discussion in practices on intersectionality. And we did a lot of policy recommendations. I will read only some of them. Strengthen regional cooperation, document and share experiences and learnings, because a lot of times we did things, but we didn't document what we are doing. Value institutional diversity and avoid normative models. Engage in popular, continuous, and situated training process. Develop technologies at the pace of people and collectivities. For policymakers, promoting techno-political education, recognizing and supporting the diversity of territorial organization forms, and designing incubation and supporting policies for the digital solidarity economies through intersectional lens, and foster an integrated system for information and resource sharing. For universities, we said the importance of higher grassroots cooperatives for academic and tech projects, build more horizontal partnerships with collectives, cooperatives, and social movements, and value worker-led experiences in curriculum and pedagogy. We know that even between these two countries was so different, but I hope that some of this experience can value here in Toronto as well. During this research, we also launched a campaign in Paris, actually, was at Sorbonne University, called Hire a Co-op. Because we started to see a lot of universities saying, we value EDI, we value decolonization, but only as a discourse. So, and the campaign say, don't like big tech, hire a co-op. So especially for universities who continue to rely on big tech for a lot of services in order to put the resources in the same line, align with the hearts or the values. So 99% of this research was conducted only with co-op. We hire a lot of co-op to do the design or the services. And we launched this campaign. We have some posters. I have some posters at my place if you want to. But as a way to sensibilize the universities for it. And I am a media professor, and so I love to create new projects. So to finish, we are starting this project called Other Tech Worlds Are Possible. It's a kind of spin-off of WOIP, Worker-Owned Intersectional Platforms. And the idea is to value different tech imaginaries beyond Silicon Valley. And the first volume, I have one printed version for you. Is a story from the homeless worker movement from Brazil and how they are creating tech for unhoused people in Brazil. There's me with blue hair. And you can see this is available online, and both the report and this comic are available in English, Portuguese, and Spanish. And the second volume we are already doing with the Federation, Argentina Federation of Tech Co-ops. Will be more, I can, as a gossip, I can anticipate will be more a psychedelic story. And hopefully the third volume we can do here in Toronto with some story as well. So thank you so much.
All right, we will open the floor to questions. We'll start off with some in-person questions, and then we can move on to the online questions. So yeah, if you wanna pass it around.
Great presentation. My question is, do you believe the success of these intersectional tech movements is a unique thing in Latin America, where there's been a lot of political support for labor movements? And how do you think it would fare in a society where there has not been as much popularity for labor movements, such as in Canada or the US?
I'll say, can you hear me? Yeah. I'll say that a different, like we try it in this small group to do it things differently. Obviously, I think there's this tech experimentation culture in Latin America that I'm realizing that some specificities there. For instance, I did some exploratory interviews on how tech co-ops in North America and UK were using AI, and how Argentina tech co-ops are using AI. In Argentina, while in North America, beyond some exceptions like the Haifa tech co-ops here in Canada, here in Toronto, most of them are saying we are refusing the use of AI. And in Argentina, they launched a campaign called AI for Co-ops. And they say, and they have a lot of projects, and they said, we don't have exactly the response, but we are trying. Even with the contradictions, or like we are trying to experiment something different. What I will say is, even in the context of in Latin America, in a lot of contexts, we don't have also a strong labor movement. One example, another research I have is about cultural workers and AI. So I did a research with screenwriters in Hollywood. And now I'm doing research with voice actors in Brazil. And screenwriters in Hollywood, they have a stronger labor movement than voice actors in Brazil. But they will have different responses to it. Sometimes the response of the screenwriters in Hollywood, for example, they have a stronger history and institutionalization there. And like from the strikes in 2023, people said, "Oh, we have each technology they create, we are struggling around." And for the voice actor, they don't have this labor movement around, but they have more creativity sometimes to pressure for visibility. So I don't think we have to we have to value the context of each of these technologies. And also, I'm writing a book on failing and learning. It's called Prototypes of Struggles. And one of the things is really don't crystallize or romanticize these movements as the futures, but considering them as a prototypes. And as a prototypes, we can open and reopen and learn from them, and not exactly, because sometimes a lot of these alternative projects, after 2-3 years, they don't exist anymore or they change. And my argument is really, instead of saying this was a failure, we have to reopen these technologies and these projects as what I'm calling zombie media. We have to reopen because it's capitalism failing us, actually.
Super interesting presentation. I was just wondering if you have some examples of tech that was created by these co-ops that you thought was really interesting or transformative.
Excellent. One example from the Argentina Tech, the Argentina Federation of Tech Co-op, was the re-territorialization of software created by the European Federation of Delivery Co-op. This Federation of Delivery Co-op in Europe is called Co-op Cycle. And they are a federation of delivery, and they created an app. So it's co-op left, and the consumer can download only one app, and they will be attended by the local cooperative. And they started to create relationships with Latin America, especially during the pandemic. But what people realize is that the algorithm for routes for this delivery app was created by a guy who lived in Bordeaux in France. And the streets in Europe are so different than cities in Latin America. And we say here in Canada as well. I talked to some of people from Gig Workers United here as well. They say like the algorithm didn't work for streets outside Europe. And they start a process, what they call re-territorialize the co-op cycle for Latin America. And they did some tests in Chile, in Mexico, but this is not ready yet. They have like some beta versions or something. In Brazil, the homeless worker movement did a partnership with Senhoritas Courrier in order to create their own app, which is in beta version. And this was a process where all the delivery workers had a voice in the development of these technologies. In the case of Maria Lab, they created a lot of instances for a Big Blue Button and a lot of like different technologies for protecting for gender safety, especially. And so they focused on creating tech infrastructure, considering autonomy as a value, and others are more like tech co-op. So the innovation sometimes became from the organizational model and not from the technology per se.
Awesome. I think we'll take one more question from online. Sorry, Ashish. Anyone online want to ask a question? You're muted.
Yeah, apologies. We have a lot of interest online. We literally have a fist fight going on. But I would give it to Noak today because he was there with an A, and an A is quite close to Q. So we give it to Noak first, but then I have another fist fight coming in from Andrew. So Noak.
Sorry, I'll for the sake of time, just one question. Sorry about that.
All right. So I'm curious if you did find any evidence for collaboratively owned tech and If you find any evidence why they would be better, or if they would be better than founder-owned organizations, or if there are challenges with collaboratively owned tech.
I don't know if I understood the question. Can you repeat, please, the question? I don't know if I understood correctly.
Yeah, it's kind of like, how would you convince a capitalist that it's better to have collaborative ownership of tech platforms? What's the evidence that it's a better way of organizing, a better way of developing, outcomes are better, or what? Did you find any evidence of that?
Yeah, I will start asking why the capitalists are working. Like 92% of the dominant startups fail in the second year. So what are the evidence that they work, and the people continue to fund them? So I will start in that way. But we have some examples like the New York based Subvert from the cultural, the music sector, with a lot of members from Toronto, and they got a lot of funding, considering that we need to experiment new models because the current system is clearly not working. And also considering a lot of public policies for developing this initiative. In Brazil, since the election of Lula in 2022, we are pressuring the government for launching a national plan for digital solidarity economies and platform co-ops, and especially considering incubation and the role of public universities and incubating these initiatives. And so this is in process. Last year, we launched a booklet for training workers as official publication for the Brazilian government in order to incentivize that. But the challenges are evident as well, like the economic challenges or how to compete in this market, the political and governance challenges or how to create collectivities, and also the technological challenges, considering all the problems and bugs in a world that even Amazon Web Services are down sometimes. Today, another cloud went down. So how to face it? There are challenges as well. For me, the response in a dialectical way, but I'm not sure if we have to convince all the capitalists about it.
Thank you very much, Rafael. Give it up for him once more.
Thank you.
Thank you.